Chris, I hope to God we are working. I didn't check one thing, so could you do me a favor and talk right now? Oh yeah, I saw
Yeah.
it. We're good. We're good. We're good.
Are we good?
Looks like it. I
Okay.
mean, chat. Let us know we were down to the wire here. Chris had some last minute running around to do, so he
And
literally
we're
just
talking
sat
right through
down.
the intro. You know that, right?
No, we're not. You're watching it.
Oh,
When
I know.
like, stop doing that. You're not
I
watching
know.
it
I'm an
live,
idiot.
you idiot. You think you know this by now, ladies and gentlemen. The Virtual Boys podcast.
Yeah. Welcome.
Oh. So as I was saying before he rudely interrupted me, Chris had some last minute running around to do, so we just sat down. So let us know how the audio levels are and stuff, guys. It should be all right, but let us know if we're quiet, loud, or whatever. Chris, how's it going?
It's going all right. I mean, I was literally just telling Ryan that my wife is pretty sick right now. She's got pneumonia, and so we're cruising in here last minute. I was trying to find cough syrup for her that'll actually deal with it. And anyways, I told Ryan, I'm like, I'm coming in. Like, it's gonna be tight. And so it is. Like, I mean, we had a sizzle reel of footage for all these games. I don't think that's gonna happen because Ryan's hosting and he's got a crap connection. So apologize there. But let us know how the audio is. We haven't had a chance to do an audio test here, like Ryan said. So you guys will be our guinea pigs. You'll just have to let us know. As you can see, Ryan's on location
Once
once
again,
again. Look at that sexy bed sheet.
you like that?
Wow,
I picked it out
wow.
myself.
Is that actually yours?
No, 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 no.
I was
Are you
gonna
kidding me?
say that looks like some like Salvation Army shit.
Probably is. um,
Welcome
uh,
to everybody who's watching. Guys, don't forget to hit that like button. We never mention it, and so I'm mentioning it now while I remember it. um, Appreciate all you guys showing up here for the conversation. This is something Ryan and I've been talking about doing for a while, and it just kept getting bumped and bumped and bumped because there were things to talk about. But before we get to the topic at hand, um, what have you been playing?
I can set this up too, actually, because I did my homework. But if you guys follow the channel, I reviewed Barbaria today, which came out for the Quest and PCVR headsets, and
And no
it's actually
one cared.
no one cared. Once more, another review from Ryan. Womp womp. Um, but for those that are have a Quest or PCVR headset, it's like Gorn, but it's so much more than Gorn because you can actually play as like a god. So you can fight in these battles, arena battles against the AI, and it's like Gorn. I mean, not quite as like in-depth physics, but not too far off either. But you can pull yourself out of the battle into like God mode, where you can view the entire map, and you can like use your godlike powers to like aid your little like a champion. You can customize your map by a bunch of unlockables. Everything's upgradable. It's a really slick game. For those that like those brawlers, this is like a brawler with depth in
Mm.
regards to like it's not just about messing around with weapons and powers. It's actually has like sort of campaign missions, but which it's asynchronous multiplayer. So you actually fight other guys, other players' own creations or their own levels, and it's a cool. It's a really good time. I really enjoyed it. It's got some jank to it, obviously, as these combat games kind of do. But for $20, if this is the first game from a new developer, it's a pretty solid effort. I've seen much worse from much better. So this was definitely something I recommend if you guys have can play it. And I don't know if it's coming to PSVR 2. I will talk to the devs about this now. I know they're really focused on this release first. So yeah, Barbaria, I recommend it. Chris, you have a game to recommend too, I believe.
Well, I mean, this isn't a recommending thing.
Oh,
This is a what have
you
you
have a
played
game you can
thing.
talk about, Chris. Sorry, let me rephrase that. You have a game to talk about, and
Well,
I
I
can even put
also
that footage
was
up too.
I've also was gonna play Per Aspera, but we didn't get codes till yesterday, guys. So keep an eye on that. That'll be showing up on the channel here. Um, Looks like kind of a city builder, but on Mars or something like that. I can't tell you a lot. I haven't played it yet, but it looks kind of cool. So that'll be something to pay attention to on the channel. But make sure you go give Ryan's view a view there for
I
Barbaria
don't
because it
want
looks
pity
cool.
views.
You do. You need pity views. There you go, Mystery Gamer with the $1.99 pity to Ryan. Thanks, really appreciate that.
Thanks,
Honestly,
Mystery
guys,
Gamer.
you
Chris,
gotta
talk
love
about
it.
Light Brigade.
Yeah, Light Brigade. Go watch my review. Next game. Actually, it's not a review. I guess it was a preview. I will say, guys, you should go check out my video. Because it's kind of a long play. Where I'll tell you guys a little bit about the game and my thoughts on it. But I will say that I am really, really impressed so far with the Light Brigade. I mean, I had been telling Ryan ever since I saw it that it looked like something that I would enjoy, and he was like, "Meh." And visually, I really like it. I said in my preview that it reminds me art style of a game called Ashen, which is kind of a Souls-like game. You guys should check that out. It's very cool, and it has a very distinctive art style that this really, I feel like, kind of like aped a little bit. I'm gonna say aped. Um, but it's definitely it's an awesome game if you like games like In Death and Until You Fall. Like if you like that roguelite game loop, except it's like obviously with guns, and it's got magic, but it's got like upgrade cards that you can very much to Until You Fall, where every so often, like it's a procedurally generated worlds. So there's like biomes that you kind of seem to go in order, but they shake up the levels. Um, so where like just where geometry might be, where guys are. I've played through it a couple times to see those changes now, so it's pretty cool. Um, it's fairly in deathy, but like not so stoic, if that makes sense. Like in death was just very everything was very dramatic and kind of almost still to that world until you kind of, I guess, interacted with something. Whereas this feels a little bit more alive, um, but it's still got that kind of Souls like where the characters kind of just stand there until you engage with them. So you kind of have to decide how you want to take out. And like basically, if you want to aggro a guy and there's someone near them, you have to decide whether you want to aggro that group. There's gun upgrades. There's different guns you can get. There's magic you can get. Um, you can level up your character. You can buy extra lives. Um, they borrow a little more from the souls pool than I think some games do. I mean, you collect souls basically when you die, or when you as you kill guys rather, and you kind of and then you basically at the end of a level you kind of like purge them. They go into your bank, and that levels your character up. If you die, you get only so many lives, but you can run back to your body, and if you can get your body and pray in time, you kind of resurrect. It's a cool game. You know, if you don't like procedurally generated roguelites, it is so not for you. Absolutely not. If you hate Souls games, kind of that kind of like I put in all this time and I've died and I lost it all. This might not be for you. But if you do like those games, which I like both of those, um, this is very cool. I mean, launch title for me. It might not be the showiest title for the PSVR 2 on launch, but I could see some people surprised at how much time they're going to lose in it. It's very slick. It's very well made. So I'm pretty
Good.
pumped about that. Ryan's dropping codes in chat, guys. So keep an eye out for that.
We are
We're
cleaning out our closet, guys. So the next few episodes, if you have a PSVR, actually, if you have anything, we're going to be dumping codes in chat because we got to clear up some old stock ahead of PSVR
I
2's
was gonna
release.
I was gonna say opening up the archive, and Ryan's like cleaning out the closet.
Yeah, cleaning out the closet is exactly what
I
it
was trying to
is.
make it sound special.
No, no, no. We're actually worried these codes might be like risk not the PSVR ones, but these codes might actually expire, or so we've learned. So it's kind of more like give it to you guys or let them die. So give it to you guys.
Enjoy.
Joy indeed.
And yeah, what I guess that's I feel like I was playing something else in VR. What the heck was it? Oh yeah, I have been playing other things in VR.
Yeah, I was gonna say your whole
I was
Steam
covering
Next
the I
Fest
was
thing.
covering the I was covering the Next Fest, and so I don't know what that feels like a judgmental there, Jason. But I played some of the Next Fest titles. I've shown you some of them, guys. I did that. Oh, the name is it's such a bad name. It's like F1 Championship World Tour. It's virtual racing, and I also ended up playing and showing you guys um, Band Space, another horrible title, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
That's horrible.
yeah, it's like yeah, it just doesn't do anything for me. Now I played some of the other Next Fest games. There's just a lot of broken games. Like I was telling Ryan, I was playing Vet VR, and I just couldn't get anywhere in it. It just like stuck me in the lobby. I played what was it, V Reckon? That was just busted. That didn't work. Um, and what else did I play? I've just quite a few broken ass games. Oh, that was the other one I was gonna play for you guys and put up on the channel. And I've wasted a lot of time actually this week trying to get games up on the channel that just didn't work. Drunk or Dead 2, which looks like kind of a drunken bar fight wave shooter with zombies and stuff. And so I was going to do that. That was also busted. Couldn't set up and I couldn't get myself recentered, and locomotion was screwed. And you know what? Screw that. I am so looking forward to console gaming. I am tired of PC gaming.
It's fun. What are you
Anyway,
talking about?
I
Being a
do love
beta
my
tester for
PC.
demos, it's great fun.
Well, you know what? I don't like being a beta tester for games that are officially released, which sometimes it feels like. But anyway, um, it's been a busy week, I guess, around that, and yeah, I think that's it,
Chris,
isn't it?
everyone's
For
getting their PSVR headset but us.
yeah, I don't talk
It's not
about it.
true, actually. It seems like most of the North America is getting screwed. So seems
Yeah,
like Sony is picking the bigger outlets like IGNs and CNNs and Tech Radar and those big guys to
the
get
ones that are going to
headsets,
show Call of the Mountain and GT for a few minutes with click turning. Ugh.
and then now cover
Anyway,
PSVR again for 6 months.
you know what? I hope they do different. GT's getting some good attention. We talked about that last episode, but let's get into it, Ryan. Let's get into it. Oh, before we do this, and again, sorry guys, I'm just running last minute up to this. In your Twitter there, Ryan, I messaged you a better site with a
I
list
saw.
of
I went through it
okay,
quickly, but it doesn't
perfect.
change my list. That site's so not right either.
Well, you know it's a tough one. So
It
today's
had a
episode,
lot of
guys.
games that are not Sony exclusive.
Well, here's the thing, guys. Today's episode's going to be we're going to be going into the archives of the Sony IPs long lost, and maybe some that aren't that long lost. And we wanted to talk about Sony IPs that we think they should be resurrecting into the PSVR 2, because they've got a lot that they're just not doing anything with. Um, I also would say that there's some that we just that maybe aren't long lost that they haven't done anything with, but ones I hope that they revisit. That's also made my list. And so what Ryan's talking about, though, and it is very true. You start looking up lists of Sony exclusives and Sony IPs, and you realize well, Sony put them on the PC, or Sony lost that developer, or Sony sold the rights off, or you know what I mean. So I'm not gonna split hairs here. Sometimes I'm just gonna go for it and fuck it. It used to be exclusive.
Yeah, that's fine. My list is a little more basic, I guess. I mean, as a guy who like really didn't play Sony games a lot, like up until PS4, really, I didn't play a lot of Sony stuff. So although I have games on the list, they're games I've never played for, franchises I've only seen like commercials of or gameplay of. That being said, I've got enough games here to easily fill this episode, and I'm pretty sure you'll fill in the gaps with some weirdo recommendations that no one's ever heard of before because you like to be like that.
Why don't you kick it off then?
Why don't you kick it off then? Get on, get my list right here. In alphabetical order, my mouse is not working.
Like a little child. You kick it off.
My mouse has disappeared. So, oh, I got it. Okay, so it's not once. I guess just it's not. Well, no, you know what? We'll go with Infamous. Um, It's a game I did play the first one anyways briefly, and I think it's a game that would be really cool in VR, especially given my love for like Megaton Rainfall. So kind of like streamlining that into the Infamous franchise and making you feel like an absolute badass while still like navigating the streets and actually like punching people and whatever the heck it was, demons or whatever the heck you fought in that game. I don't remember anymore. I think that would be cool. Um, that's all I got. Like I said, it's just it's. I think this is crazy. My mouse is like invisible. This is a new problem. Um, I
Now,
think
when
that
you
would be a
say
cool one.
Infamous, do you see Infamous as a first-person game or a third-person game?
First person. I think it's like with Megaton
With
Rainfall
the
is my
powers.
example. I think
Yeah,
it would.
yeah.
It's a game that would work in first person. There's a lot of games on my list that are actually third person that should probably stay third person. This is one I think could be first person.
Well, they really, yeah, because that is one of those IPs where like I don't think we're gonna see it again. Like I mean I don't know, like I don't see it being something that people are clamoring for. But if they resurrected that IP as a VR title, people would be like, oh, that's sweet, that's sweet. Um, yeah, I mean I agree with that. I saw that one. it didn't jump out at me, but the more I think of it, you're right. Like with the powers and stuff, I could see that game easily redesigned to be really sweet in VR. Though, as soon as they do that, people are just gonna be like, "Well, I just want Spider-Man." Now, here's the problem with
Good, I'm
Spider-Man.
fine with that. If Infamous is a success when we get Spider-Man, I'm down.
So here's the thing. We might as well. I'll just segue right into the Spider-Man Insomniac thing. If now, this is the only time I'm going to tell you this, Todd. Savage gamer, there, you're being scolded. I got to rein you in the chat. We're talking Sony IPs, Sony exclusives. Enough with your Crisis, and no Destiny, and no Cyberpunk. Okay,
Sony exclusives or near exclusives. We'll go with that.
moving on. Spider-Man by Insomniac. If they were to bring that in VR, that is a perfect example of a game where Sony's hybrid philosophy does not work. That game would not work just put into VR. Now, I mean, I guess if it was a third person and you just watched them play, but I think a lot of us want to be Spider-Man. We want to be like you want to be
Look,
Spider-Man,
we
and
had
that
it.
game,
Like
yeah,
that
okay,
demo was a
kind of,
really good,
yes.
yeah, but it was a really good, like, at least a starting point in regards to like showing like you that it could work. So in my opinion,
Well, we've
that
all seen Winlands and Resist and what was that other remember it was like kind of like a wave, not a wave shooter, but it was like a bullet hell. Do you remember what I'm talking about? It was a quest game.
Swarm.
Swarm. So we've seen it done, kind of, but yes, that's Spider-Man, the second one, not the first one, the second one,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
one
yeah.
that second like the
You had to
home
fight the robots and stuff. You
yeah.
could swing around a very bare bones New York.
Now I would say that it would have to be it would have to be redesigned. Like the Insomniac game is insane. Like with the combat system and how it's insane how they've even managed to dial that combat system in that it doesn't feel like a mess. So, I mean, oh,
It could
you know
work.
what? Oh, you know what? I want to jump on something someone said in chat there before I forget it because I totally wouldn't even have thought of that.
What?
Titanfall.
It's not a.
Yes, it is.
Well,
They own it
now it
now.
is, I guess.
Yeah, they own it.
All right. I never played Titanfall. Actually, that's. I think I played the first one briefly. That's the reason why
Oh
I can buy
no,
that.
I'm lying. I'm lying. No, I'm wrong. Respawn did Titanfall. Bungie.
Ah,
I was thinking Bungie that they
so
bought Bungie now.
You're thinking Destiny then.
And I'm not thinking. I mean, everybody says Destiny, but I still stand by the fact that I do not think Destiny. Um, they would be able to do Destiny VR unless they made a standalone
I
Destiny
stand by
VR.
the fact you're not thinking.
It would throw the balancing off hard, though. Like I mean, they could do something like like COD, for example, when they started to mix PC and console. You could choose to opt out of being matched with PC
You
guys.
still can. You can on Xbox for sure. It's
That's
just
what I'm
it's.
saying. That's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. You're able to do that, right? And so I guess they could make it so that you could opt out of playing with VR guys, because I think there's an advantage there. Maybe. I guess it depends on how casual you are or not. But I
Okay.
do love that Titanfall idea. I mean, man, I'd love to be running and gunning, running around, and then just jumping into a Titan, then have the whole thing come down behind you. Oh, it'd be so sweet.
That would be cool. All right. So I went through whatever I said. Infamous. Now you pick one.
Uh, Shadow of the Colossus. It was on my list, and then somebody said it, so I'm
It's on
going to
my
jump on
list
that.
too.
It just makes too much sense, um, because of scale. The saddle they've always been two things: atmosphere and scale. They haven't always been like the greatest, like for gameplay. I mean, they were fine, they were competent, but the world itself and that almost like, I don't know, that heavy feeling that the world had, and the art style would lend itself well too, I think.
I think it would work really well. Even just the climbing, like climbing in VR typically works fairly well. And climbing these massive beasts, I think would be pretty damn cool. Even if you're just using like blades or whatever to like just Tomb Raider climb those things. Um, I think that'd be awesome. Like I said, the use of scale would be amazing. I know we've seen there has been. I'm trying to remember now. There's been games that have done that's like a similar style. And for some reason, I'm drawing a blank now. It would work. I mean, bottom line, that would totally work. And it'd be awesome to see, one of the most beloved games of all time, get the VR treatment. I know it's only the one game, right? Just the one game and then the remake of that game. And a VR remake of that would be freaking sick. I would love that. As he
Yeah.
reads chat.
I'm listening to you too. I'm listening to you too. Somebody brought The Last Guardian, same developer,
Hey, stop jumping the gun here.
oh, did someone have that on their list?
On that note, I guess, I mean, we'll just segue to that one. Yeah, I put them side by side, either Eco or The
Remember
Last.
that little VR experience we got
Look,
there?
this is my game. I'm talking
I'm
now.
sorry. I am sorry.
So, as I was going to say, The Last Guardian, we actually did get that little free demo on PSVR, which looked amazing. As far as the PSVR goes, like, we kind of see its limitations, but then we've seen developers skirt those limitations. And that little demo, even though it was only like 5 minutes long or however long it was fairly short, looked freaking amazing in VR. Like, looked so good, I kind of wanted to play the non-VR game after the fact, and I haven't played it. And it just, once again, it's kind of those, it's proof of concept where you did it. I mean, I know it was like teleportation, movement, and click turning only, which was brutal for the demo, but you proved you could do it. So
yeah, visually it was there. Yeah.
yeah, and the game style is also like, fairly slow. It's perfect for Sony as far as approving these things for like sickness in VR, because it's not a fast moving game. There's little risk of people getting sick. I mean, unless you're on the back of the dragon or whatever you call that thing. But I think like something like that is akin to like what they're doing with Horizon right now. It would be on the same level if they released like a Last Guardian VR and it was like whatever, an 8-hour VR version of the game or something like that. I think that would work really well.
Yep, I agree. And I don't really see them doing another Last Guardian sequel. Well, although The Last Guardian itself, if you remember, was rife with development hell for years and years and
Oh
years.
yeah.
I think the chances of us seeing a sequel to that is unlikely. But like you said, they kind of like teased us with it. So yeah, someone just said it was a massive tease. My next title, uh, I would say, is just a franchise that's long past due being brought back to some regard, and that would be SOCOM.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like looked up, and again, I had a scissor reel, guys, with like um, all these titles that we're talking about, and so some of these trailers, I went back, I was like, wow, it's been a long time since some of these titles Sony did anything with them. Now, I don't even know if they own SOCOM anymore. I really don't know what's going on there, but let's just pretend they still have the rights to it. Um, SOCOM would be very cool. Now, I don't know what that would. I feel like I'd even be fine if they just used the SOCOM license
For
and
sure.
brought out. I don't know, like it always. I can never remember the name of it. What is the name of that shooter that is coming out to PSVR 2? Remember the Asian first-person shooter that we saw with the
Crossfire
military?
Sierra Squad.
Yeah, Crossfire actually just came out. Hey, there's one of the versions of the game just came out and got absolutely destroyed, by the way.
I mean, I'm curious. I mean, on that note, I actually should look into. I'm sure. I doubt it's the same dev. Should look into that and see which dev teams are making Crossfire and Crossfire VR. Because if it's the same dev, then it's a worry. But if it's a totally different dev team, and they're
Yeah,
just
they
using
could
the
just be
license,
using.
then it could
Yeah,
be something different.
yeah, yeah. Well, from what I gathered from the review that I saw of the flat game, they're like, it's just such a COD wannabe, but it's just not refined at all. But it looks kind of pretty, but the gameplay's trash. So, yeah, it didn't leave me hopeful. But I was like, even a game like Crossfire, rebrand it SOCOM. I do want SOCOM. I would like SOCOM, but I feel like even just the fact that they're not using that branding, it's got some brand, value to it. But
Did you play
I don't
SOCOM ever? Like any of the iterations of that game?
know. SOCOM 2, it was actually the only, like, I was playing online with PlayStation 2 because it was like one of the first like real online games.
That's too bad. Yeah, I never played it, but I knew guys that were like hardcore into it. Guys who were, it was their Call of Duty. Where every day they were going home playing SOCOM. Like that was their jam. And I mean, it works perfectly. It's also a nice counter to like even Firewall, because SOCOM I believe was for teams of 4, right? But it was like up to 16 players, I think. Am I crazy? I don't. I'm just kind of remembering Lucy. I think it was
Yeah,
teams of 4 up to 16 players. I think.
I feel it. Yeah, yeah,
And that's
exactly.
awesome because like Firewall. I mean, imagine Firewall with 3 teams going at it. Like it would be next level insanity. So it'd be awesome to play that.
Todd, one more time, Command and Conquer is not a Sony IP. They do not own that. They do not own Hogwarts Legacy. They do not own Mass Effect. That's it. I'm just gonna shut you down.
I can block him. I can block him. I have the
Get your shit
power.
together. Get your shit together, boy. You're putting out bad intel.
All right,
Polos Todd.
so I'm gonna go through some other ones here as well. And this is a game once again I haven't played. It'd be Siphon Filter. And I know this has been a franchise that's like long overdue for like any
Dude.
kind of reiteration.
The trailer I found was the PSP. That was the newest one. It looked way better than anything else.
Oh, I bet. I mean, PSP is still way more, more powerful than friggin' the PS1. But it's a game. Like I said, I may have played it once, maybe because at a friend's house or something like that. But to me, it was kind of one of those games I was like, I kind of wish I could play. Back in the N64 PS1 war days, and because it was like everywhere. I remember the commercials were just like badass and everything looked cool. It had such a good reputation. And I don't know why that franchise died. I'm assuming that PSP game wasn't awful. So shout out to Jason, by the way, who's also dumping codes in the chat. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
But yeah, Siphon Filter to me, I don't understand how like everyone talks about that franchise with such love. I mean, if you bring it up to any guy who played or owned a PS1 back in the day, Siphon Filter is just it's a beloved series. I think there was 2 in PS1, so I don't understand where that's gone and why not bring it back in VR. I think like something like that would be perfect.
Yeah, it really would. Siphon Filter would be a very cool one for them to bring back. Just because it's such a dead IP that I just feel like it'd just be the perfect way to just resuscitate it. There's just a handful of IPs that Sony was really famous for that they've let die off. We've mentioned a few of them already, but like Siphon Filter and SOCOM, both of those to me are just like
I would just love to see that reveal trailer with Siphon Filter or Siphon Filter 3 VR and just read all the comments of everybody who just cries that they can't play without a headset.
And then anyone under the age of like 25 going, "What's Siphon Filter?" Or even 30.
Right?
Yeah. It's been a while. It's been a minute. My next title, this is a deep cut, bud. Jumping Flash.
Yeah, see, I know of this, but I don't know of this. So continue. It's that you're a rabbit, right, or some bullshit?
Yeah, you're a rabbit. You're a mechanical rabbit. Don't think about it too hard. It doesn't get much more Japanese in development games than Jumping Flash. But like on the PS1, because I think there were 2 of them on PS1, they were like awesome. Like these first person massive verticality. It just was like blew my mind back then. And to bring back Jumping Flash in VR makes so much sense. It just makes so much sense. Even they could even keep the art style, and I'd be fine with that. I mean, it didn't age well when you look back at it, but damn, it would make a lot. It would just be a rush in VR, an absolute rush. I mean, we've got enough swinging games. Now it's time for jumping games.
Okay, well, I can beat you on that one, and this is one that I think it will never happen just because it's insane. But Gravity Rush. For those of you that like, I mean,
Yep, it makes so much sense.
I love Detached, and I love that freedom of like just that freedom of floating. And although Gravity Rush isn't floating, it's literally changing like the direction of gravity. So 1 second you're on the ground, the next second you're flying through the air as the sky rushes toward you. It's if you don't know what Gravity Rush is, watch a trailer or watch a highlight video. It's insane. And I guarantee it would never come to VR because it's like asking for people to get sick in VR. But man, I know I could take it, and I know that would be absolutely that would be a guaranteed oh wow VR moment for me, which I haven't had in some time. So I'm jonesing. So Gravity Rush in VR, I think would be just ridiculous. In a great way.
I know. It made my video cut, and I was like, "Oh my god, it makes so much sense, right?" And I think that my next title I'm going to bring up is one of the ones that we just have to mention, as any reputable Sony conversation would require us to say Killzone. But Killzone to me really, really makes sense. in VR. I think probably more than almost any title that we could come up with, in the fact that it's been dormant enough. I don't think Sony knows what to do with it, because when they brought it out, Killzone's always been trying to be Sony's whatever. Like for a while there, back in the earlier days, it was trying to be their Halo.
Yeah.
You know, then it was like, then they were trying to kind of be, I guess they were always trying to be Halo, but then they kind of moved away from that. They kind of tried to play with the COD crowd a little bit, and then and also still kind of the Halo crowd, but they just never they never stuck the landing. Like it just never, like the last Killzone still looks amazing when you look at it. Like wow, but I don't think Sony knows what to do with it. Guerrilla Games, they're the ones that made that. You know, I'm pretty sure they're going to do another Horizon game, I would imagine. Um, and I just feel like it would be the perfect opportunity for Sony to bring a franchise that still has quite a bit of value to it, even to younger audiences, like brand awareness, and make it a VR game. Like they could Half-Life Alyx that, where
Hmm.
they could make it single player and multiplayer, even just single player, and just really bring the quality there, but break it as a VR title only. And I think it would be a really smooth move on their part. Like with Firesprite doing the Horizon VR title, I feel like if that goes well, and if behind the scenes it's gone well, then it's like put Firesprite on another Guerrilla game.
Hmm. Especially as a shooter, like we've already heard from Horizon without playing it yet. Just some of the limitations it has as far as like the on the rails combat, that kind of thing. You wouldn't have to do that with a first person shooter. Like you just wouldn't. Like, there's no need for it. So it'd be a much more, or be a more truer, I guess, truer to form uh, reimagining of that franchise. And for those that don't know, I mean, there's been rumors for years that they've been trying to develop Killzone for PSVR. You can find Upload VR articles that basically said that like there was a studio working on it for like 2 years, and Sony took it from them and just like it was handed off to another first party developer. And so, I mean, who knows where this thing is? I mean, if it even exists at all. But I mean, the rumors heavily suggested that they were trying to make this thing for PSVR one. So hopefully, with PSVR two, like the limitations of PSVR one, the Move controllers and blah 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 blah, just don't just never made it ideal for that. But I mean, the PSVR two, it solves all the problems, right? So if that thing has been sitting in development hell, hopefully with the PSVR two coming out, maybe we will see Killzone VR the way it should be, not the way that it could have been on the PSVR one.
You know, you bring up an interesting point that makes me think about that, is that we got so many mm, false promises with the PSVR one, especially
How
from
dare you? How dare you?
especially from first party, but not just first party, of
Yeah.
people saying they were going to do games. It makes you wonder how many, like, if there's some pretty decent franchises that had quite a bit of time and money put into them, and then just stalled or got shelved or outright canceled because they're like, we can't make this work on the PSVR one, because that was the problem. There was like this awareness of the actual, what the limitations really were. Um, so that is very curious. Like not just first person, sorry, first party. Like like Ace Combat. It is wonder how much more work was done and then shelved when they realized they had to say rebuild the game, like the levels we got, that we just have to hand build them for the PSVR. I wonder if there was some work done before. You know,
Well,
it just
they were, because you could literally see it. They announced like the whole
yeah,
game's in VR.
I
Then
know.
it's like 10 levels in VR. Then it's 7 levels in VR. Then it's five. Like, you'd see that countdown as they just realized they're rebuilding every single level from scratch. It was like, well, we don't. And for what? Like, the audience. I'm sure they knew about the audience at that point as far as like how many active PSVR users there were. So if they knew 500,000 people were playing this, and it's only now 3 modes, like 3 standalone levels in VR, it just doesn't make sense to like keep dumping money into it. Um,
So I have a few comments on chat that have piqued my interest here. Um, First of all, Crash Bandicoot. That's my knee jerk reaction would be like Crash, bring Crash back in VR, do an Astrobot. Guess who owns the Crash rights now?
Microsoft.
Microsoft.
No, that's not true though, because that's Activision, right? And that
No,
deals.
they do. Microsoft. Well, I think I don't know. IGN just had an article the other day saying that they owned it now.
Okay,
So,
I thought I heard the deal wasn't like going to be as easily done because
well,
everyone's suing them now or some
maybe. Yeah,
garbage.
well, who knows? But that's where it's going. So that is one thing I wanted to comment on because that would be cool if they got like Todd said Crash Team Racing. That would be a cool kart racing game to bring to VR. Actually, that'd be sick if they had the rights, which they don't. And Parappa the Rapper, hell no. I that game pissed me off and freaked me out back on the PSVR. It was on the demo disc for the PSVR 1.
That's awesome.
Hell no.
Hell
Uh,
no,
and
he
my third
says.
comment is Max Payne. Jason brought that up. That's not a Sony exclusive, is it?
It's definitely
I
not
It's
unless
been
they've
so
picked up the.
long since Max Payne has been out. I can't even.
No, I don't. I wouldn't count it for this conversation. Like, we're not talking about like studios they bought yesterday that now they own the license. Like, yeah, Destiny 3 should be in VR. We're talking about like like older franchises. Kind of
I'm
the core
willing.
of this
I'm
thing.
willing to go newer too, but
Well, so am
but
I. I've got things in this list too that are a bit newer, but I don't know if I count Destiny, like something like that as like a Sony owned IP when they have. I think in order for this to happen, maybe you have to have actually released your game. Well, that's not true. I'm being a dick.
no, it looks like Rockstar Games and Take Two are all over Max Payne. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
too bad, so sad.
Plus that sweet Mark Wahlberg movie.
Oh my god, I blocked that out of my mind.
Yeah, not good. Mila Kunis. It's all coming back. All right, I'll continue. It's been mentioned in chat a few times, so we'll just continue on with this. But another game, just like Killzone, would be Resistance. That series as well would be great in VR. It's an established IP. It's a first-person
Which
shooter.
one? Sorry,
Resistance.
oh yeah,
Yeah, it's like a no-brainer. You're literally doing nothing with these franchises. Why not bring it to VR? Like, give me an 8-hour campaign, a resistance world that looks good, and I'm sold. It's like all we want quality shooters in VR, and that's something we didn't get a lot of last generation. We have a few here and there, but generally speaking, the amount of shooters we get in flat versus the amount of quality shooters we get in VR, we don't see a lot of quality shooters in VR with like a decent campaign, unless they're remakes or ports. Like it's surprisingly rare, and I would love to see this generation. I love PSVR 2 especially bring a lot of attention back to that, even if they are just ports of older games, stuff like Bioshock we keep dreaming about. But even that, like, just give me more quality first-person shooters in VR. Like, seriously, not wave shooters, not like multiplayer stuff, just a full-on like a single-player campaign, Farpoint esque. That's has a name brand attached to it. I'm sold. Easy money.
yeah. I looked up Resistance, and as I couldn't remember who the studio was. It's Insomniac, so it makes even more sense than before now, because now
Come
they've
on,
got
Insomnia,
Insomniac,
get your shit together.
right? Well, I mean, I think we're all really interested to see what Insomniac will do with VR.
God, just port your goddamn VR games over at the very least, for fuck's sakes.
Stormland at least, but I
I
mean,
guess
but
I'm
it is
swearing,
but it is one of those things though where it's like you've got this developer that you've now purchased that is an exclusive, and they've also done some epic VR games. Like there's no way they're not working on something in VR. I mean, I don't know anything, but I really hope they do. But
Kev, I don't know. Like, God of War has been mentioned a few times, and I have it on my list, but I had it on my list as a talking point because I don't know how you could do God of War and make it work without just kind of ruining the gameplay loop as far as the quick time events and like the ridiculous over the top action, because you'd have to lose control of yourself.
okay, are you thinking God of War 1, 2, 3, or are you thinking God of War 4 and 5?
I
Because
guess
I just beat 4. I never played 4. I haven't played Ragnarok yet, but I did play 4. And you're not wrong; it still
yeah,
applies,
it's
but it's not
still.
nearly as crazy as the old. It's not nearly as over the top and arcadey as the old ones. So
I like
it's
the over the top and crazy. That was the best part.
it gets as the game gets on, it starts to go back more to its roots, and Ragnarok looks like it's also faster. Um, but you're wrong though. I've had the same thought. It's like it's one of those games where if they did a hybrid game, they just have to stay in the third person view
Yeah,
and be as it is, or build it from the ground up for VR. The closest I
I
could,
don't see how it would
you,
work.
you know what it reminds me of when I was thinking about what a VR version of that would be? It would be Asgarath.
Yeah, and still though, I mean, it's like Asgard's
But it
got look at
plays with
Asgard.
similar stuff.
Not the combat though. The combat is very
No,
much like a chess match. Like it's not like
no.
visceral God of
But
War,
that's
pounding the hell out of minotaurs and all
man,
that.
it would be so sick though. In like I don't know how like look, I can't figure out the combat system. To me, they'd have to dumb the combat system down quite a bit. But something as simple as being able to have that axe and just be able to chuck it and have it stick into things and then be able to like just do this or something and all of a sudden like the hammer comes back to your hand and the haptics slam into the controller. Oh, yeah,
He says.
come with me, boy. Um, but that would be really sick. I don't know how they would have to like they'd have to do something from the ground up for it. I really do think that would have to happen. But I want to see it. I really want to see it. Is it my turn now?
Sure, why not? Yeah, it is
I'm
actually.
going for a deep cut now, boy.
Boy.
Boy. Uh Extreme Games, I believe is what it was called. See, Ryan's not even gonna know what the hell I'm talking about.
No, you're making shit up over there.
You got to be a PS1 guy. This was like launch title. It made the demo disc. If you guys remember, they did a second one too, and it was like Road Rash, but you had like rollerblades and skateboards, and it was like an extreme games type of thing. It would have to be completely redesigned for VR.
I say no. I say
But
you're wrong.
but I think it would be sick. It'd be cool. Just bring it back. Like think sprint vector.
Okay. I gotcha. I
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he says.
Yeah, Too Extreme. That was the sequel. There we go. There we go.
You guys who are redeeming codes, that was the last of my PSVR codes. So next up will be some Quest ones for those that are like trying to get the app ready and stuff. You've been warned. And we won't get through all of them today, but at least we got through some oldies. Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. So sure, I want California games in VR. Let's just do that. Yeah.
Oh man, that takes me back. Was that Nintendo?
That was Nintendo, man.
Wow. Wow.
All right.
That's that's going back, man.
So we talked about Resistance. We talked about Shadow Colossus. Um, I have to go with the one you fought me on every time we have this conversation, but Twisted Metal. And the more I think about it, the more I think it would absolutely totally work. Just
Tell me.
mirrors,
Tell me. No.
mirrors. Like when you check the mirror. Well, no, when you're driving in like a Gran Turismo and you look at your mirror and see the guy behind you, you're good. So if you can see up front of you, you can see out your windows, and you can see in your mirror, you can see all around you.
When's the last time you played a Twisted Metal?
Black.
Okay, now the last Twisted Metal, you could literally turn Sweet Tooth into like a flying transformer. Like he turned into like Optimus Prime, and he was
Okay,
like
but then don't do
hovering.
that. But then don't do that. I mean, it's pretty. They just bring it back to its roots. Black didn't have that shit, so just bring it back. But no jets in my Twisted Metal. It's pretty simple. I mean, then it's just a driving game. You can't. To me, it works. It would work great.
So Triangulator said he played the first Twisted Metal in first person. So did I. I still was a sucker for
Yeah,
cockpit games.
exactly. So shut your mouth. They couldn't see behind you then, Chris.
But yeah, but it was really hard to play that game competitively.
That's because it's a PS1 visuals for garbage.
That game but it was look, do I want Twisted Metal in VR? My knee-jerk reaction is just yes. But I just don't know if I think it would play.
I think it would work better than half the games you said so far. So
I think it would have to be third person.
I mean, you can give it. No, that's cheating though. No, I want first person. I want to be Mario Kart in this thing. Press X to laser. Press X to laser. Oh yeah. I think it would work. I mean, you'd have to.
Can you imagine the guy who had to play Axel? Just this is how you have to play. You have to play the game like this the whole time. You have to stand like this. You know what I'm talking about?
It's
the
so
guy with
real.
the two wheels.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Was he died and was rebuilt into the vehicle or whatever his origin story was?
Yeah, it doesn't get much more VR than that, man.
Todd, you got one. I am on your side for Twisted Metal. But I would think they definitely have to be tweaked for VR. It couldn't just be a straight port. But yeah, I think it would totally work. I'm willing to try. I'm willing to be the beta tester for that one. Whoever develops Twisted Metal VR, I'll be your beta tester.
See, I don't see Destruction Derby in chat there working either. Same thing. You'd just be like Wreckfest. I love Wreckfest. Not I'm not talking VR here, but and my knee jerk reaction with a racing game is I want to go into the cockpit. I want to or the hood cam at least. I want to feel like I'm in the car. But there's nothing worse than just be like and then and you're like, where is this? What is going on? Like you have no situational awareness that things are coming at you, and you just and in VR,
Should
just
you? Yeah. So now you have a proximity sensor. So as the crew gets closer, beep 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 beep, beep, so you know you're gonna get nailed. So you're bracing for impact as your headset vibrates off your head.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's
Beep, beep,
like
beep, beep, beep,
like I
beep, beep,
said,
beep, 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 beep.
there's
It
part of
works.
me that like wants these things in VR, but at the same time, like I don't know. Like Jet Moto, I brought this up last episode. I think Jet Moto. If we're gonna go back to the archives of PlayStation,
I had
I think
MotorStorm on my list.
yeah. Well,
Same thing.
now we're just flying all over the place. But MotorStorm, yeah, totally. Um, why am I blanking on who made MotorStorm? Someone
Um,
big made MotorStorm.
I couldn't tell you offhand. I mean
Just
that's a
continue
Google.
on. Yeah, I should know this. I know this. I think it might be Gorilla. Um,
What time's a good time
no,
still? I'm gonna go through these things slower here. You got it or no?
uh, they've had multiple developers on it. Continue. Just bring up
Garbage.
another one.
All right. So this one's kind of more of a gimme one, I guess. But
Oh yeah, never mind. That's who it was. Sorry, Drive Club.
oh, there you go.
Evolution Studios did it. I knew it was someone Sony, but
So
it makes a lot of sense. It would be
I was
sick.
I was gonna ask you actually, Knack. I have no idea. I've never played Knack. I just know Knack has this stupid ass bad reputation for being like a launch game that just didn't work. They made a sequel. Like, is there anything relevant there for VR or no? I honestly don't know.
I had it on my list too, actually. I never really played it either, but it is a Sony IP that I don't think they know what to do with right now. It could work. I mean, like Astro, like I mean, it really did work.
Well, I mean,
It would be
I
cool.
had Little
It
Big
would be
Planet
good
in
for
here as
kids and
well,
stuff.
and like the same thing where it's like these kiddie little inviting everybody can play this thing kind of game. You know, I've only played I don't know, one of the Little Big Planets back in the day. I got the kart racer game too. And I'm not talking about all the customization and stuff in there, um, but just like an actual like storied campaign. I think would just it goes a long way having them. You know, you said last episode the day of mascots is dead. I think if it wasn't last episode, it was in a private
It
conversation.
might have been last episode because we were talking about Gex.
There you go. And I don't I think mascots still move the needle, man. I mean, we're all pining for another Astrobot game. We can't. It's on my list. Like where the fuck is our Astrobot? You know, even though where's our other VR game, man? We know that the team is only focused on Astrobot games. Like as far as I'm concerned, like this, like yeah, give me another Astrobot game in VR. I don't want anything else. Like for God's sakes, look at our banner art. Like Astrobot still represents VR to PSVR owners.
And I think they need to get on top of that shit, right? Um, I feel like it's a missed opportunity there. I think they could have, like so it's like so mascots are kind of a thing of the past for the flat gamers, like maybe PSVR needs a mascot. I mean, they need a face. They need something. Um, they could give Astro some. It'd just be funny if they gave Astro a voice, and like this whole time we thought he was like this cute little robot, and he's actually just like this filthy, like and racist.
They just give him the conquer treatment. You're just like
I'm
conquers bad
just
fur
want to
day.
say Conquer. Just racist and sexist. He's horrible.
Yeah,
Just
that sounds
he absolutely
totally feasible.
he just hates bandicoots. Thinks that like all plumbers are just morons.
That'd be funny.
um, but yeah, no, I'd really like to see that. One of the games on my list, I don't even know whose it is now, but I'll go and then you can go
No, no,
because
it kind
now
of
we're
just
all over
it
the
was
place.
messy. Yeah.
Is I actually had Cool Borders on my list.
Oh
Somebody brought
man.
up Cool Borders. I loved Cool Borders, man, and I've got fond memories of Cool Borders. And so Carve, for those of you who are only PlayStation guys and never saw that, it was a Quest 2 title. Might have been Quest 1 too, but Quest. And Carve was actually made by some of the teams that did 1080, the N64 game, and you can tell that they had some of the DNA was in there, but it's very cool borders as well, I would say. And I mean, what it showed was two things. One, doing a snowboarding game, doing a skiing game, anything in VR really works, but it's really hard to do properly. You're almost hovering on the snow. Like it's a hard one to do with snow physics and everything, but I
I have a
really
big
enjoy it.
problem with like hand tricks for feet tricks. I have a like a VR skater does that. I haven't played it yet, but
And
like
it,
mapping your hands to your feet to do tricks is weird. Like there's a disconnect there for me. So I'm not really sold on these ideas. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying for me, those kind of games, that's even going back to like VRFC, that Sonic game,
yep,
right?
that was a
But
weird
it was
one, but
weird, like when your feet with your hands, it's weird. And I can do it. I'm not like inept, but it's it's a tough sell for me. It really is. We need foot tracking, is what we need. And I was an SSX
yeah,
guy too. All the snowboarding games, SSX was mine.
I
Man,
loved SSX,
SSX
man.
3 or Tricky?
See, and I mean, I liked those, but the first one is in my mind, and
No,
it was in
Tricky.
my mind, it was gorgeous too. I think
Yeah,
it's still, yeah.
they look
I'm
decent. They look decent.
I loved SSX. Can you imagine SSX in VR? Just yeah, screw this realistic snowboarding thing.
Yeah, man.
Just go for it. Just like 8 rotations in a row. Ah!
Vomit
um,
everywhere.
yeah. um, No, it was the EAEs. There's like Nintendo or Crash being owned by Microsoft. It's like Nintendo owning Sonic, and like I have like Switch and stuff. You have no idea how much it bothers me that Sonic is all over Nintendo now. Like he's in a bunch. There's a
I
bunch
remember
of
it
Sonic
being
stuff on
weird, and
Nintendo.
now it's just normal to me now. Like it was
Well,
weird.
that's because I think Sonic, like
Sucks now.
Sega as a whole, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just not what it was any to me.
Like the heyday just doesn't even exist anymore. It's just like yeah, that was like 30 years ago. The heyday. You know, it's now
Like
it's time has
as much as
passed.
I think as much as I think Nintendo gets what I call the Nintendo Pass for putting out like substandard or mediocre games, and they're just like, oh my god, it's amazing, it's amazing. Like I think Breath of the Wild is just one of the most overrated open world games ever. But I
Calm
digress.
down, Grumpy Jug.
I know. But at least Nintendo has stayed strong to like Mario. They're like Muslims in the Quran. They're like, no, no rewriting. This is it. This is we nailed it the first time, and it's done. Nope, not gonna change the outfit. Nope,
Yep.
no mustache change.
Yep.
That's Mario. He's ours. He breaks bricks.
Remember when you saw him with his hat off for the first time in like art? It was like weird. He had like this
I don't remember
flat
that.
brown hair. He has like flat brown. It doesn't look out of place, but it just looks it's a mascot without a piece of his suit. Like it looks off.
It'd just be funny if like the hat popped off and he just had a massive bald spot and he's like, whoo, whoo, oh,
So
oh, it's a Mario's bald spot.
Todd, once again, he mentioned Uncharted, which has been on my list. It's kind of the same thing as God of War, where like climbing and stuff works, like somewhat. Like it does work in VR, but the entire like translating the entire game to VR, like Immortal Legacy is the best example of like Uncharted in VR. That kind of did mash all those mechanics together somewhat well. So I'm not saying they couldn't do it, but where I said Shadow Colossus would be cool to climb, Uncharted would also. I mean, climbing's fun in VR, but climbing for like long periods of time gets old. I don't know. Uncharted. I just don't know if it would work as well in first person as it would third person. Like it's just so well established as a third person title, and just like so refined that like like doing all the things, swinging across giant cliffs and the climbing and the shooting and the driving, doing all those things. Individually, it sounds like they should work in VR. I don't know if it would. I guess I'm keep circling
I'll
the
tell
same
you
point.
what dawned on me when you were talking about it is I think this might not be popular opinion. You guys can let me know what you think in chat, but I see in my head as being the only way they could probably pull off Uncharted in VR would be to adopt a Blood and Truth type of gameplay
I don't want that.
where it's just that like the
I
Uncharted
don't
games
want.
were but the Uncharted games were heavily scripted. Let's hear me out though. The Uncharted games were heavily scripted to start with, and like a lot of the appeal was the story and
Oh yeah.
the writing, the delivery of Nathan Drake and stuff, right? And just like that whole thing, and so much of it, the biggest action sequences were almost hand holding and quick time events. And I feel like, you might not have to go full blood and truth, like full on rails like that, but I feel like if you look at, I have a feeling that once we get Call of the Mountain on our hands, it's going to be a lot more blood and truth than it is Forbidden West. Like I feel like you said, like there's climbing stages, there's things that you jump, but a lot of it's going to be very cinematic, very handholdy, very experienced based. And so I could see them doing something like that for Uncharted. I really could.
Ye-
Um, and that might not be bad. Like I mean, they could like the reason I say that not they don't have to go full blood and truth is that they could say open up the combat to be full locomotion, or even just a cover shooter kind of thing, more of a thing where there's still some control, and you would almost have a lot of the combat system from Uncharted. There's just not a lot of Uncharted that it's not like Uncharted's famous for its like amazing gameplay.
Oh, I disagree. Well, yeah, it's definitely more like the set piece than anything else. I mean, I don't know how well it would work. Like especially some of the things that Uncharted's known for. Like some of the, especially like the bigger, like when you're, the Crash Bandicoot where you're running away from the camera and everything is like crashing around behind you. Well, in VR that just wouldn't work. Like just straight up, now you're losing some of the things that does make this franchise, kind of famous.
But think of the replay value of being able to replay it and like now
Sure,
be paying
running backwards.
but like well no, but paying attention to the stuff that's like going on like around you too, like cinematically. Like I just it's just an idea that I feel like that's would you lose something? Maybe. I'm not saying you wouldn't, but you definitely gain it would definitely be an experience, that's for sure. I just feel like that's the way it would have to be done. Because I don't want to spend, and they could have some climbing sections. It would be less climbing sections because, yeah, I don't want to spend an hour climbing
Hmm.
in VR.
Well, especially
But
it's not just climbing. Like in Chara, there's like it's not just like climbing. Like you're doing a lot of jump climbing, which I guess the climb did as well.
a lot of it,
every time I try to
a lot of
argue
it,
against the chart, I keep like, no, that works, that works, that works. Maybe
it
on
works.
chart
Well,
it does work in VR.
look at Call of the Mountain, right? Like it's it would work. I just think it would end up being a lot more cinematic than people necessarily would like think it would be. You really start to think about it and how that would work in VR. Um, I don't know. It could be cool. But what else you got? I don't even know if it was my turn or your turn or
What are we on here? So now I'm kind of getting, what did I have? Jack and Daxter, kind of the same thing as far as like keeping in third person, that whole thing. Ratchet and Clank as well, I think would make a good VR one. But I don't really
Ratchet and
um
Clank would be a neat one to see, but that would have to be redesigned too because it could be game can be almost become a bullet hell shooter, and so it would have to be something that would really have to be planned out.
So the only other one I have on my list that's like I guess a deeper cut. I guess I have Sly Cooper on here. I mentioned Motorstorm. So the last one I have on here, that's older. I actually have a bunch of other games here as well, but is Warhawk. I don't know if you know
Oh
about
yeah,
Warhawk at all.
dude, I brought it up last
I don't
episode.
pay
I think
attention to you,
I I loved the first Warhawk on PlayStation.
and I think that would be slick as hell on in VR.
And now I don't really acknowledge the last Warhawk that was on PS3 as a Warhawk
I don't
game.
know.
It was like a multiplayer, and there were tanks and stuff. No, I want Warhawk. I want the full motion video cinematics too.
Yeah, I just from what I saw, I actually like was going to listen, was looking up trailers. I was like, this looks like it would work damn well in VR. So and just the whole multiplayer aspect of it as well. Again, multiplayer, right? Am I crazy?
Warhawk, the second one did, not the
Okay,
first one. The
that's what
first one was like
that's so
full
that's what I
campaign.
saw.
But the first one I think was the more memorable of. Anyways, I mean for me it was at least. I just feel like when I think Twisted Metal, I think Warhawk. They were both came out right at the same time. They were both single track games. They were both like just trend setting, like just like mind blowingly good. Um, Oh, it'd be so sick. Warhawk would be so sick in VR. Um,
Well, I'm
at
glad my
least
last one was a good one.
that's your last one, eh?
Well,
Wow.
no, that's like I said. I have more, but the rest are all just like basically some VR games that need some new love. So
Yeah.
you're more than welcome to keep going here. I can happily.
Well, you want to talk about new games that need love. I mean, I think the one that like is just my immediate go-to. And I'm not saying I'm done with old stuff either, but um, Wipeout. I really need Wipeout to make it over to the
Yes,
PSVR.
Wipeout is also on my list, and that was one of the ones. Like
When I
man,
think of when I think of PSVR one games that I want to make the port that haven't been listed yet, Wipeout's number one, I think.
Wipeout is very number one. It would be awesome. I just saw somebody comment here. EAE. I hate your name. Um, you just love those like full motion video story games. If you haven't checked out Invisible Hours, I highly recommend checking out Invisible Hours. Um, outside of that though, Starblood Arena is a game I think, right. I mean it's a
Double
game that
down on that one.
it came out at the wrong time. It's only been on the PSVR headset, and
It was so
I think even just bringing it back to PlayStation VR 2, maybe not right at launch, maybe we'll wait a year or two, but I think it's the kind of game that could seriously do well. It just came out at the wrong time, had an awful launch. Everyone seems to forget just how bad their launch was. Servers didn't work for like 2 weeks. That you couldn't play that game. It was no 2 weeks. It was just a week. I mean, it was bad. It was a few days at the very least where people
remember that.
bought
Right
it.
around launch. Yep.
Yeah, and then you couldn't play it. I remember trying, trying, error, and because they built the game to be online only, you couldn't even play single player once they shut the servers down. And it's the kind of game that deserves a second life on PSVR 2. I know it's not going to happen. That studio has put that to bed, unfortunately. But it really is one of those unfortunate losses from PSVR 1's earlier days that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. I mean, Starblood hurt. Yeah, that was a weird. Uh, Starblood had a content problem too. That was one of the things that didn't help it. I do remember that. I remember the fact that like it just it felt like it needed for what it was trying to do. It needed more variety, like just more characters and more maps. It just needed a little bit more um, to keep that community alive. Like it could have kept growing. Like they had the very good beginnings of almost like an Overwatch
Mm-hmm.
reimagined for VR in some ways, like without aping the Overwatch. Um, I just feel like, man, yeah, it was very well made. It just needed more, in my opinion. Um, since we're talking about PSVR one games that I'd like to see them resuscitate on the PSVR 2. I'd like to see everybody's golf get the proper treatment. Like I think it was visually gorgeous, even though it has some pretty aggressive foveated rendering to do that. But mostly the lack of multiplayer, I think, really killed that game.
And it's
It just
so unnecessary. Like there is no reason for of all the games to not have multiplayer, the golf game where you don't even play at the same time to not have multiplayer is insane. Like how do they miss that? It's so stupid. It's one of the dumbest decisions I've ever seen a studio make. Like it's like yeah, it's a golf game. Let me play with my freaking friends. Like so dumb, so dumb.
yeah. I mean, I think it really killed that game. That game would have had a lot more
And it was good. It felt like
longevity.
golfing. Yeah, it felt good. I mean, it was a little creepy when you had to like in between your rounds, you had to like your caddy was all
You're,
hitting on you and stuff or whatever. It
you're,
was
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah,
But the golfing felt great. The courses got even like really extreme. You're like shooting over like, little like I don't know what you call them, like not cliffs, but like little like I don't know, like little rock towers in the ocean as you're trying to like bounce from island to island to get your ball in there. It was just so well done, and it's unfortunate that it didn't have multiplayer. Because if it had multiplayer, I think it would have even like kept the PSVR alive longer as far as like a player base. Like it's just it would I would have kept playing if there was multiplayer. And I was like, hey Chris, like want to go golfing for like a little bit? Sure, absolutely.
and I've played all the golf games that are out on PCVR. And like I guess the one that's on Quest 2 is also on PC, Golf Plus or whatever. I mean, it's changed between it was like Top Golf, and then it was and had a swinging game. It had a driving range and a mini golf like a putting range, and then they put them all together and they've added real courses now. Now it's just Golf Plus. But even on PC, the game's ugly as fuck. Like it's ugly. It is. It really is. It looks like a Quest game with sharper visuals on PC. I even talked to the developer and he's like, "Yeah, I wish we could spend the time and money to do the PC version properly." And the only other golf games that are on PC just aren't that great. I can't even remember what they're called now. There's a couple of them. The one game here that comes to mind here.
Tiger Woods.
No, it was called just so I can put it out there. Everyday Golf, and you play it, and it's like it's an it sucks. Like the visuals are garbage, man. Like everybody for a PSVR one game, everybody's golf took almost every other game to school. Like even though it might have looked cartoony, the golf physics, like I have a really bad slice in real life on my driver that I cannot get rid of, and I jumped into everybody's golf, and you have no idea how much it pissed me off that I had that same damn slice that I couldn't get rid of. Like I don't know how they're managing what they're doing here, but it is replicating all my problems into this game. Whereas I jump into Golf Plus and I one hand Happy Gilmore the crap out of it, and I'm just like, woo, 240 yards. And I'm like, I thought this was supposed to be like the sim golf game on VR right now, because it's not. And so, I would love to see everybody's golf be brought over, because there's really not a lot of competition out there for it.
Yeah, and then I said, we mentioned Blood and Truth. I would love to see a follow up to Blood and Truth that actually did once again offer full locomotion. Still have that cover based fire. You could still totally do it where it would work well. And to me, it's even a franchise. I mean, we had the London Heist first, which was just more of a demo, but it was a hell of a demo. And then Blood and Truth, like give me a Blood and Truth too, man. Like I'd be all over that. And it was good. Like Blood and Truth, despite it being on the rails, the way you moved, it still was a much higher quality game. The cover mechanics worked great. The guns felt great. On the PS5, it even got a substantial boost in graphics that actually were noticeable. And Blood and Truth was a good time. Like it came out at a time we were kind of getting less and less quality titles. So even though it did have its shortcomings, it felt like the games that we deserved at the time. So for me, Blood and Truth, it seems like, yeah, don't let that franchise die.
Yeah.
Salvador.
Salvador though says, I want someone to figure out how to make beat 'em up games work in VR, and thank you very much for that donation, man. We really appreciate that. Have you played Path of the Warrior?
Yeah, I was gonna say Path of the Warrior.
Because that's what comes to mind big time. It's not full on beat 'em up. I guess when I think of a beat 'em up in VR, what was that zombie game on PSVR one? Remember that was a side scrolling game?
Bloody Zombies.
Yeah, and you could, but it was still like a side scroll, and you could like break that like barrier and like look down the way, and you could see like what was going to be coming up down the side scroller. That was kind of neat.
I thought it was really well done. Like considering that game shouldn't exist in VR, I thought like what they did actually it worked. Like a side scrolling beat 'em up should not be in VR, except that they actually made it work, and it was all right to play.
It was one of those games that was just like, wow, they're trying everything in VR right now.
That's where I met
Like,
Seraphim.
really?
Yeah,
Man, there's a blast from the past. I haven't heard about that guy in a long
he's
time.
been making Dream stuff. Actually, he's
Still,
trying to
still.
he's still doing that like No Man's Sky thing. It actually looks pretty cool in Dreams. I'm not sure if you can play it yet, but he's been working on it.
Yeah, he's been going hard on that. Then that's been years in the making now. He'll come out of the woodwork for PSVR too. I believe in him.
I believe in
Uh,
him too.
I was starting to see some of them pop out.
Bloody Zombie,
Oh,
like Bloody Zombies. Again, talking about Bloody Zombies in chat now, but Bloody Zombies got so freaking hard. Like it got like old school arcade side scrolling beat 'em
that's
up
why I
hard.
said like it was legit, right?
Yeah.
Um, Something that one game that did not make my list, but that Jason actually brought it up, was Mod Nation Racers. If you never played Mod Nation, it is the kart racing game. It destroys every kart game that has ever come out. before it. It had an insane track creator, and the amount of cars and just options that were in that game. You guys look it up. You go look at Mod Nation Racers, and you're like, oh my god, this looks, as a kart racing game. It it outdid even Nintendo's Mario Kart, I think, in many ways. And that would be a game for them to bring back if they want to do a kart racing game. We don't need Dash Dash World. We got Mod Nation Racers VR. Damn, I want that.
Damn, I want that. So then, like I said, winding down this list here as well. This is one that I think needs a second go in Bravo Team. Not because
No,
I
no.
don't want.
I saw that today, and then I laughed to myself. I'm like, no,
Well,
no.
not because I want. I definitely don't want Bravo Team redone for like PSVR 2. It needs to be. I mean, the idea, the concept is there. A two-player co-op military shooter in VR sounds awesome. Crossfire, but what they did to that abortion
Zero
sucked.
caliber.
Yeah, Zero Caliber as well, I guess, right? And it shouldn't have been that way. Like it shouldn't have been that good. So I mean, I guess I don't really want Bravo Team. I just want like that. I want what I was promised. I was promised a co-op military shooter, and I didn't quite get what I was promised in VR because the constant trips out of VR were just ridiculous. Like, who thought that was a good idea? It's insane. Like, people make it sick, so let's totally ruin immersion as much as we possibly can every 5 seconds. Thank you for watching. When you transfer from cover to cover, for those that don't know, Bravo Team, it's first person military shooter. But when you move from cover to cover, it goes to a third person camera and watches your guy move, like run to cover. And what's hilarious is when he runs to cover, you can see him still getting like shot, like blood splatter just flying out of him before he gets to the next cover. It was just so broken. And I had fun with that game. Me and you had fun, except the gameplay. But the gameplay just got so like monotonous and redundant, and it just wasn't good. But I remember us quitting the stream where I was like, I think I'm done with this. Are you done? Like, I think I've had enough Bravo Team. It just became boring, which is obviously, to me, that's the most criminal offense a game can play, is can commit when you're just like, I think I'm just bored of this. Like, it's not even bad. It's just I'm bored.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yep. I got another deep cut for you that I want to see a revitalization that I actually think might work as a VR game. The Order 1886.
Yeah, I never played it. All I know is it's like a Souls like, but it's like London and werewolves and shit.
It was not a Souls game at all.
I don't fucking know. I don't care.
No, not at all. It was just a shooter basically.
Really? Okay, I don't know.
Yeah. But it was a gorgeous game. It had a cool storyline too, and I just feel like there could be something in there that give it a second chance in VR, and really double down on the atmosphere of being in that world and the lore and everything. That would be awesome. Yes, Rob, that is a good idea. Thank you very much for supporting my wonderful ideas.
Are they though? Are they?
Yeah, they are.
Okay,
you want to talk about you want to giving VR games another chance? Rigs.
Okay. I mean, I don't hate rigs. I'm not against rigs. I think rigs reputation precedes it. Like, it's just we lost it so early, and like the fandom it lost its audience. It didn't even have an audience before it was lost. So I get where like bringing it back to life would work. I just don't think it would, like, the game had no depth. Now obviously you guys were talking about like a Rigs 2, which I guess would change.
It had its following though, man.
Not enough.
I mean, I didn't actually really love it that much, to be honest, even though I'm pushing for it. I feel like there's a lot of people love that game. Like, I'm not a big sports guy, and that extends to video games too. Like, I just that doesn't do a lot for me, but I feel like there's a game there.
I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna say no to it. I don't. It doesn't have. I don't have the love for it. I played it. I mean, I remember playing it until it was like the second or third season or whatever. However that game worked. It's been ages, obviously. And like, it was just like recycling animations, and like after every game you'd end up on the plane. It was the same animations, and like every time you start a match, it was the same, and I remember like it seemed like a bigger game than it was, and once you kind of start to see just how small it was, it kind of fell apart for me. And just like go with 3 modes, was it 3v3? I think two teams of three. I don't know. I mean, I guess
Where
a Rigs 2 bigger and better. Yes, I guess I'll back that 100%.
where it lost me is that I didn't care about the sports aspect. I just wanted to shoot people, and it wasn't a good enough shooter. It didn't have enough depth as a shooter if you didn't want to do like do the kind of like Rocket League aspects of it as well, and actually go for like scoring goals. But a lot of people love that game, man, and it really just came too soon.
Oh,
It's
I
actually
mean that was definitely. I mean,
pretty
even
dumb on Sony's part, to be honest. So like, let's take our one of our biggest first person developers and let's get them on a multiplayer game for a launch title.
well, I wonder if they just kind of like. I wonder if it was like they had it in their heads that like VR is going to explode, and
Yep, they did.
then
They did. I think they really did. I think they thought they were onto something, and they were. I mean, we're all here, but it just the masses. It was just like, man, I'm sick. Wah, it's too expensive. Wah.
all right. So bring us back on track here. Let's kind of get rid of some codes here. So we talked about Bravo team. We've mentioned before Farpoint in regards to like why is this thing not exist yet? Like I mean, like this should have been a friggin' launch title for PSVR 2. Farpoint 2. I mean, the game ended on like a what the hell is happening moment. Like this, it ended like to be continued basically, and it's Farpoint, man. Like, come on.
Farpoint screams, take me to the next level. Like more than almost any game that ever came to PSVR 1, I feel screams like I need more power. Like what they did with it was amazing, but it was a very corridor based. Like they really were playing it safe with that. You know, the multiplayer was never, it was more of an afterthought. It was like 1v1 with bots. You know, it wasn't like this it could be so amazing. It could be one of the VR first person shooters that is like reference. It could be like the Halo of first person shooters. Not so much like Halo, but just like what Halo did to first person shooters for console.
100%.
It could do that for VR, I feel. Like and I think a lot of people would love to see that lore and grow it. I don't need an aim controller with it. I mean, I just want those ideas to be fleshed out more.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it just seemed like it's a universe ripe for exploration. And once again, I mean, like especially with Farpoint, the limitations of the PSVR were all over it. The fact that enemies would literally like if they jump behind you, they would jump ahead of you just to make sure they were back within the tracking range of your headset because you couldn't turn around on it. And once you notice that, it's hilarious. Um, so yeah, now it's the freedom of the tech, man. PSVR 2 just allows us for so much more. So games like Farpoint for sure could totally see like a bigger, better sequel would be amazing. And then finishing this off, I guess my last few here would be something I guess I want for launch and something that Sony's done for what PS4 and PSVR, and that's the Playroom. We got the Playroom, we had the Playroom VR, and I don't see why we couldn't get that get again. It's a weird, it's definitely more of like a sampler kind of thing, but they put a lot of work into the Playroom. It's not like it's a low quality effort.
We
It's
never
very,
know, man. We might get one. I mean, we haven't
maybe
heard
we
anything
do.
about it.
No, I mean we haven't, which is I don't. Okay, I'll finish this. Come back to this point here. I'm just gonna make a point of this conversation here. So, no. Okay. So the Playroom I would like to see, and then Gollum I think is a game that deserves another
That was
look at
on
it
my
in
list.
VR as well.
I'd like a
Um,
sequel to Gollum. Yeah.
I really would, and I know it didn't sell well. Um, just because it came out to a terrible reception because it used those god awful motion controls that just like made the game incredibly not fun. And they fixed it. They fixed it within a month, but unfortunately, you know, all the major sites that reviewed the game did not go back and review it. I did, not that it matters, but no one did. So I remember reading posts a year later that was like, "Aren't the controls in that game garbage?" It's like, no, they fixed them as fast as they could, but the word got out. So I think Gollum did not say it got an unfair shake because it didn't play great. I remember Brian saying I don't get he doesn't get sick in VR, and I remember him saying like the movement in that game made him sick. So it tells you they kind of screwed that up a bit. And then the last one
I
I'll
remember
mention,
that.
and then the last one I'll mention here is Dreams. Like make a proper PS5 version of Dreams. Like this PS4, PSVR one garbage. When you now have the power of like PS5 version of Dreams. Let's utilize the power of the new console so we can have bigger and better Dreams experiences because some of those creations that are being made in Dreams are absolutely incredible. They are incredible. Except you can see they're stunted by the fact they're PS4 are being emulated or on the PS5. Like just Dreams PS5 free upgrade and let these guys continue to make these crazy games in VR.
Yes. So here's my thing. I think that one of the reasons that Dreams, Media Molecule, is not seeming to support it into PS5 other than just like letting it, letting the frame rates buck a bit on PS5 to be able to give them some better, you know, frame rates is one of the things that I think that that game did not do as well as I think they thought it would, and that game took them. They spent a lot of money developing
Oh
that.
yeah.
I actually remember the making of the. It was kind of an idea that they just kept growing and growing and growing. What if we did this? What and they were saying it's like insane. There was like an entire animation engine. There was an entire music creation engine. There was an entire animation engine. Did I say that already?
You did.
Physics and like but like an entire art program for
Yeah.
drawing things. Like it was insane how much work went into that to like basically like almost like make this accessible learning tool for game creation. But what a lot of people's problems were is that it was locked in that ecosystem. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that if they do PS5 and that, like what we know about the PS5 architecture being much closer to PC is I think that somehow they need to be able to make it so that individual developers or teams, because a lot of teams started to develop around bigger projects on there, could somehow export those games into like an arcade store or something and then charge a small amount of money for it or export it to PC onto Steam. Like I really they need to open up that ecosystem because a lot of people I think were like I'm spending a lot of time in this and it just like made them uh they either got bored of putting in all that time and then it just kind of being stuck there on that system or they're like, this is amazing and how look at all the time I'm putting in there. I'm going to go learn Unity. Like
Mm-hmm.
they ended up in a weird spot with that, so I feel like if they do bring Dreams over to it, the PS5, then that they need to take it to that next level, and I don't see that happening. Um,
No, I
I
know.
think they're just washing their hands of it. I think they spent a lot of money on that and didn't recoup it, which is a shame because Dreams was insane for the tool that it allowed you to do stuff with.
Not saying it's not possible, EAE, but a Iron Man port to PSVR 2 is highly unlikely because Meta owns that studio now.
Yeah.
So that's probably what happened. But do you have anything, any more games you want to take? I have one final point here I kind of want to end this with, but I want you to make sure you cover all the games you want to cover first, Chris. Do
I
you have anything
wanted to talk
else?
briefly. Well, Gollum did get mentioned there,
Yep.
and I did want to say that like where I see Gollum as a sequel. Obviously the control system. I mean now we've got analog sticks. It's just not. It's a non-issue now. But they need to increase the speed somehow on those things. They just were a little too slow. Even if it was like part of the upgrade tree, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or you chose a faster Golem and like they had more diversity. I just feel like Gollum really fleshed out in a bigger game because Gollum was like it had a lot of Souls like aspects to it, which I really liked. But it wasn't a very big game, and they kind of padded themselves with a little bit of backing and forthing. It
Oh
had a
yeah.
little bit of that Metroidvania, like opening up new entrances and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like Souls games. But it was kind of like I'm headed to the other side of the map, thunk, thunk, thunk. And as much as I still really game was gorgeous, and it just had so much production value that I kind of like it got away with that, but ultimately, I feel like to take Gollum to the next level, they're going to have to grow it. But I'm pretty sure we won't see a Gollum 2, but I'd like to see a Gollum 2.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it's one of those ones I really do love Gollum. It does feel designed for PSVR one. Like it does feel like it was designed once again with those with those restraints. The Golems you fought always stayed in front of you. Just the move controller, that slow movement, everything you're describing is kind of like you can just tell were like things that PlayStation tried to do to make sure people wouldn't get sick. Um, do you have any more games?
um, I could talk forever.
Well,
Uh,
I have a final point here. Like, I have no more games, so that's why.
I do have another game, and I've lost it now. So if you've got something to segue onto, go for it.
Well, my segue is this discussion that we mentioned here with like VR worlds and how like PlayStation VR 2. Sorry, I'm just gonna. This heater is blowing heat in my face and it's actually getting uncomfortable. So there's no VR worlds that we're aware of. There's no playroom that we're aware of. No one's mentioned even a demo disc. Um, and I have a theory behind that. And although I think if anything will happen, it will be a demo disc, like a digital demo disc, not like an actual packet or anything. But I think the reason why we're not seeing that kind of stuff is because of the just how many games are getting free upgrades. Because we're up to a pretty decent number now of games that are just like full on day one. You know, synthesizers, puzzling places. You know, Saints and Sinners. I'm not sure Saints and Sinners gets a. I'm not sure when that gets a patch. Um, I can't. Other games are escaping me, but there's enough games in that list that are getting a PS5 upgrade or PSVR 2 upgrade that I think that's what they're banking on in regards to people like just playing stuff. That's instead of playing, you know, the first level in Job Simulator. Well, now you can play Job Simulator. It's just that easy as long as you bought it already. And I think because both me and you think that they're kind of like catering the PSVR 2 launch towards people who already own the headset, then to me it makes sense that they're kind of just like, look, like you are, you already have these games, so just have fun with these free upgrades. You know, after
No,
the fall.
I think you're right. I think that there's a different angle to it than that, or at least an additional angle. I think that back when the PSVR 1 came out, there was a lot of like need to show and tell and give people different experiences of a certain level of quality. And I think Sony kind of took it upon themselves to make sure that people could experience a bunch of flavors of VR, just because it was like it's just never been done before, at least in console. Like they were looking at it like the masses' first experience at VR, and I feel like VR Worlds was kind of that like little like so you could dabble in a bunch of different like ideas and experiences. Um, Whereas, like you said, they don't need that anymore. You've got like 40 launch titles that that cover everything. It's not in its infancy anymore. You don't
Right.
you know you don't need that now. Still love to see something like that. I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's just I
I
think
agree.
there
I
are
agree
memories
100%.
of like the shark attack, and it's like it'd be cool to see that taken to the next level and all those things. I just they don't need to do that heavy lifting anymore.
Maybe. We'll
Well,
see. We'll see, I guess.
I think they've got enough at like when you've got Resident Evil 8 and GT7, um, and Call of the Mountain, and you've got No Man's Sky, and you know you've got enough heavy hitters. I mean, we talk about how many Quest titles are there, but again, if you just look at it as a straight up like launch, it's a better launch than PSVR 1.
Oh, for sure. And this no, I mean, I said last time. This is arguably the best launch for any headset or console in the history of gaming. I mean, we're
Now,
talking 40 plus games, you know, and they're all and some of them are some of the best of games that have ever come out in VR.
I'm
It's
not gonna
just
lie, I was more pumped about PSVR 1 though. Like like
but that's
the
different.
sitting there
We're not this
treat
we're different though. We've played
That's what I
everything.
mean.
So,
That's what I mean. That's what I
yeah.
mean. Like some people are so like, "Oh my god, freeze me and wake me up." It's like I remember what that felt like.
Yeah.
Um that's how like with PSVR 1, I was like, I just can't wait to be in these worlds. It's just like, "Oh my god, like I just can't believe this is happening." Whereas uh I'm really excited for PSVR 2, but you know, it's I'm almost like I'm like this proud parent just excited for to see my kids open up their gift on Christmas morning.
Hmm. No,
Can't wait
I
for everyone to play some of these games.
you're totally not wrong. Like I said, I'm pumped for PSVR too. I'm pumped for it, but you're not wrong. PSVR one was just new. Like it was the first big leap into VR for many of us. So of course there was just like there was you know you just took my virginity for God's sake. So this go around is not the same thing. But that being said, what I'm hoping for out of the PSVR two is just the eventual return to greatness, and bringing VR back to obviously said this many times before, but you know, bringing back the AAA to VR. Um, so yeah, I mean, now we're just rambling here, Chris.
Sure. Um, one game that I wanted to bring up. It's not really. This is not like the ending game, so it's not this big. I mean, this is very anticlimactic. But a game that I did want to mention back earlier on was Colony Wars. Now, again, that's a deep cut for us PlayStation people that you may not necessarily get.
Nope.
But yeah, I would love to see Colony Wars. It was Psygnosis who did Destruction Derby and Wipeout. Wipeout is what you know them for. They also did Colony Wars, and it was a sci-fi space combat shooter. Like it would be if it was, it would be like, I don't know if it was it would be Eve Valkyrie now, basically, if it was brought out now.
Sure, I'm
But
down for that.
yeah, it would just it was just this. They did two of them, I think, and it would be and Psygnosis went. I don't know what the heck really happened. I think they got bought into, they absorbed into another studio, and then they just kind of disappeared into nothingness. But they were one of those big studios back in the PlayStation 1 era, like single track studios who did it, Warhawk, Twisted Metal, and Jet Moto. They were in that same league of these amazing studios, first party studios that Sony had under their belt. But yeah, I would love that. And yeah, I don't know. Guys, please, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to hit that like button. If you want to support the channel, we do have a Patreon. That's always appreciated, but just participating in chat and commenting and sharing and all that jazz. Rob, thank you, man. That's awesome. Play the ukulele, which has nothing to do with the current conversation, but I wanted to super chat. Random, my friend.
You are more than welcome to Super Chat, Wonder Rob. Wonder Rob, yeah, Salvador and Mystery Gamer, thank you all for your Super Chats. You said the Patreons, of course, we love you guys. And everyone in chat, everyone who joins this podcast, there has been consistently 40 of you every episode. Awesome. We very much appreciate the chat. You guys are helping us make these episodes, and it's very much appreciated. Next week, more than likely, me and Chris will just be doing PSVR 2 hype. As far as our most anticipated games or whatever, we'll make it. It's days before PSVR 2, and then the week after that, join us for the podcast where we basically discuss everything we've played in the 2 days on PSVR 2 and cram as much first impressions and feedback as we possibly can, because we are both going to be not sleeping that week. I won't be anyways.
Yeah,
it's all about uppers for me, buddy.
Because we're not getting a headset. We hoped we would, guys, but in Canada, the PR company that represents Sony, they were asking us for our info and everything, and then they turn around and say, yeah, we're not getting any units, so we're just doing basically in-office demos, and that's about it. And so that really just kind of kills our momentum, because we've got
plans. We have
so much to cover, and now we're just gonna have to blitz the shit out of it.
Yeah, it just feels like we're just circling. We're just like waiting for this thing to drop. we have lots of plans, guys. Side by side videos, all the stuff. So PSVR 2 is coming so soon. I cannot wait. I mean, on the bright side, Chris, it doesn't sound like too many other people got headsets in North America either. So it's just all the Euro trash that got the headsets.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Screw those people. Yeah, North America, man, it's just we're gonna have to listen to people with accents talk about
it for a week too, because it'll be accents and it'll be IGN. Oh, it made me sick.
Who knows? Maybe we'll get a surprise headset in the mail too.
I mean, one can dream, but yeah, I'm gonna go bribe my local Best Buy manager and see what it'll take to get a PSVR headset. Like, I know you got them in the back. What'll it take? I will SURD for it.
Oh, tell them you got this this channel partner, and he does it, man. It's like I cradle the balls and then the thumb, and then it's like it's amazing. Trust me, it's amazing.
Drink the gravy.
I've had nothing but compliments.
I just gotta find a YouTuber that looks like me, who has like a bigger following, and just pretend to be him. Like, no, I'm Jack45. That's me. PSVR 2, please. Yeah, guys. I gotta pack this thing up here. I'm tired. I'm out of town. I've been up for a while. I've already said my thanks. Chris, do you have anything to say?
Ryan is not in a Super 8, contrary to what chat was saying. Ryan's in a camp, like a work camp.
Dude, this is like an 8 by 10, 8 by 12. It's a prison cell, boys and girls. It's a comfy prison cell, but it's a prison cell.
Like in there.
Not as good as I'd like it to be. How about that?
Yeah.
I wish it was better.
Ask your buddy there to say dirty things to you while you finish it off, and then no.
No, I don't. I don't talk to my
Mm.
buddy. I'm sharing a bathroom, guys. Is what he's talking about. This is a Jack and Jill setup for those that don't know. Which means there's two rooms, one bathroom in the middle. So it's great times up here. I love living in a camp.
Good times. You both have the bad chill, and you got to double decker each other just to get her done.
Ooh, that would be rough.
Run it further. Anyways, guys, it's getting worse and worse in quality. So we're gonna say goodnight, and we'll catch you guys on next Thursday. And keep an eye on the channel. Go give Ryan's review for Barbaria a pity
Oh my
view.
god, I want pity views.
Love you guys. We'll catch you later. Bye.
See you guys. Gotta go.
Oh, Diet
What?
Pepsi Cat.